in U.S.A. We leading by the Luang Por Pate Puti Vitet, and we have the board member more than 10 monks at the board member, and we have the Ajahn จ้าคุณพระวิเทศรัตนพร Dr. Ajahn Tanat, who very active the board member to helping to set up together with the program. And I'm thinking, if the COVID did not go away, and maybe we have to, after, the New Year, and maybe we're going to have another program. And I think everyone more happy to learn and more happy to get the more Dhamma. And many monks, they tell me that the one to come and keep a talk, and they're more happy to come back again. They're happy to come back again. Like I did talk to the Ajahn Pasikon, from last. He gave a talk last week, and this morning I did talk to the Ajahn Vichian, Dr. Vichian, just from the India, and he very happy to come back and talk again. And then, but anyway, today we got the K C Thompson to come back again, and we are welcome to K C today. Okay, thank you, K C.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here because it forces me to do a lot of study and a lot of work, which is really good. I have a PowerPoint today, and this is a long Dhamma talk actually, because it's a lot of material. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. Okay, today I'm going to be talking about the 16 steps of the Anapanasati meditation, mindfulness with breathing. This is from the Anapanasati Sutta. When mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated, it fulfills the 4 foundations of mindfulness. When the 4 foundations of mindfulness are developed and cultivated, they fulfill the 7 enlightenment factors. When the 7 enlightenment factors are developed and cultivated, they fulfill true knowledge and deliverance. And the important thing here is that everything is interconnected, and the meditation is a crucial factor in being able to make progress on the path. This is a little bit of background. Anapanasati is the meditation that the Buddha himself had practiced and through which he became enlightened. There are many advantages in this form of meditation. For example, in practicing it, it is equivalent to having practiced both samatha bhavana, or tranquility development, and vipassana bhavana, or insight development, simultaneously. Today, I have a lot of quotes. Most everything is coming from Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, and then a little bit from Tanasaru Bhikkhu. That's where I got all the information, and mostly I'm just quoting Ajahn Buddhadasa. The talk was supposed to be on samatha meditation versus vipassana, and Sati sort of covers all of it because it's both samatha and vipassana. So that's why I focused on that. So according to the Buddha, when all 16 steps of Anapanasati had been accomplished, the 4 foundations for mindfulness would be perfect. Bojjhanga, or the enlightenment factors, would become perfect. Vijja, or the threefold knowledge, becomes perfect too. followed by the perfection of vimutti or liberation. It goes directly in this line, Anapanasati, of which consists of 4 steps, thus totaling 16 steps altogether. I think this is just important to say again because meditation is such a crucial part to the practice of Buddhism and being able to make progress in our daily lives. And that's a lot of what my talk is about today. Meditation every day. Ajahn Buddhadasa says to find a suitable opportunity, time, and place as best as conditions permit, but not to let it become a hindrance. So he said you can practice this on the train, you can practice it, pretty much anywhere. With the physical body, he says to ignore your emotions and focus on the breath. In India, every form of Vipassana meditation begins with pranayama, controlling the breath. You sit with your spine straight and your legs folded inward in the lotus position if possible. Even if not possible, just make sure the spine is straight. Sitting this way is a stable pyramid and the body is less likely to fall over. He says to keep the eyes open and fix the gaze at the tip of the nose because opening the eyes while meditating is a more profound technique which has a deeper effect, which I didn't know before I studied this. Also, he said with closing the eyes, people can have a tendency to fall asleep. These are the 4 major groupings for each of the 4 steps. So there are 16 steps to achieve successful mindfulness with breathing meditation. They are divided into 4 groups of 4 or 4 tetrads. What are the proper, correct, and necessary objects of contemplation every time we breathe in and breathe out? There are 4 proper objects of contemplation. The secrets of Kaya, body. The secrets of Vedana, feeling. The secrets of Chitta, mind. And the secrets of Dhamma. The secrets of these 4 objects are to be brought into the mind and studied. I thought I would give you here just a summary of the 16 steps. I'm not going to go through and talk about each one because we're already doing that. But just for your reference, that way you have it in one place. Because I found as I was studying this, I kept getting lost between the steps and struggling to figure out which step I was on. So this helped me. Okay, the first tetrad, Kayanupassana, contemplation of the body. This is from Thanisaro Bhikkhu. As the Buddha said, this method leads to states of strong concentration where there's a sense of well-being, even rapture. So what kind of breathing would give rise to well-being? What kind of breath would give rise to rapture? Focus on finding that. I thought this was a really good technique to help make the meditation progress. Okay, this is directly from the Sutta. This is the first tetrad. We're just going to read this, and then I'm going to go through and explain each of those 4 steps. And how, bhikkhus, is mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated so that it is of great fruit and great benefit? Here a bhikkhu gone to the forest or to the root of a tree or to an empty hut sits down, having folded his legs crosswise, set his body erect, and established mindfulness in front of him. Ever mindful, he breathes in. Mindful, he breathes out. Breathing in long, he understands. I breathe in long. Or breathing out long, he understands. I breathe out long. Breathing in short, he understands. I breathe in short. Or breathing out short, he understands. I breathe out short. He trains thus. I shall breathe in, experiencing the whole body of breath. He trains thus. I shall breathe out, experiencing the whole body of breath. He trains thus. I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily formation. He trains thus. I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the bodily formation. Step 1, the long breath. Concentrate on the process of long breathing. Allow gradual course without having to concentrate on this kind of breathing. Know what it is like when the breath is shortest. Observe till you know well about both the long and short breath. Long breath has its usefulness for the body and health of the practitioner. It helps to restrain one's mind and return it to the normal state. When caught in a state of shock, excitement, and fear, One may sit down to draw some long breaths repeatedly. It will help drive away the bad feelings. This is really important here because Ajahn Buddhadasa is making clear the connection between our thoughts and our mind and our breathing, and that they're interconnected. And he says very clearly that when we have long breathing and it's fine, then that's when bad emotions can't even originate in our minds. So he's explaining how all this is interconnected. As I studied this, I realized that I had never really studied Anapanasati in depth before I did this. And it was really amazing to me to think about how meditation almost feels like I'm in a spaceship in my mind. And I'm learning what the buttons do and how to make it work and how to make it go up and down in this way and fast or slow. It's very much like that. If you follow these 16 steps and if you understand this process in depth, you have a tool for being able to work the buttons in your mind and control things. And the breath is part of that engine. Okay, the short breath, step 2. Step 2, and that's another thing is when I was also studying this long time ago, I kind of ignored these 4 steps. Breathing, long, short, whatever, who cares? It's actually really important to understand the breathing because of, again, how it's working the whole system. So that's why it's important to go through each of these steps, and when meditating, to start with step 1 and proceed through in order. Okay, step 2 of part 1 is about short breath. Make short breathing the mind object of concentration. The way to learn about it is the same as learning about the long breath. Observe its characteristics, nature, effect, and reaction. In short, learn all about the short breath. Short breath consists of very short breath, moderately short breath, and just a little bit short breath. Whichever extent of short breath suits us for our convenient study, just adopt that particular kind of short breath. But do notice the difference between a long breath and a short breath. A short breath can be very coarse, moderately coarse, and even not coarse at all. Learn about all that you have to know about both long and short breath. Long breath brings about a certain normalcy. Train yourself in short breathing until the same normalcy prevails. See, that's important. He's giving us an indication here of how we can work with the short breath. The whole body of breath, step 3. Step 3 is to get to know all the kaya, body. Thus, there are 2 kinds of kai, or bodies. The commonly known physical body of ours, which is kept alive by a body of air known as pran, meaning breath. This body of breath enables the physical body to continue its existence. The relationship between them is profoundly deep, and often it is beyond our obvious perception and even control. However, we are still able to make a study of it and perceive separately the effect of both long and short breath on the body and the mind. This is also important what he's talking about because he's saying that we can bring this into our conscious awareness and understand the relationship between our physical body, our mind and our thoughts, and our breathing. And that's an important part of this practice. It also helps keep us curious throughout the practice because we're aware and noticing all these different things. In step 3, we know that breathing concocts the physical body. So that's important to know too, that the breath is kind of keeping us alive here. And that there are actually 2 bodies, the body of breath, kailom, and the physical body that is made up of flesh, bones, and liquid. We also learn that the physical body can be controlled by kailom, or the body of breath. That's important too, especially for people that struggle with anxiety and things like that, to understand the connection. Train the breathing. Concentrate on the surface of the skin where the air strikes, maybe like the tip of the nose, or notice where it strikes in your case. Try to breathe in every manner. Try a long breath, try a short breath. Notice the difference. Deep or shallow breathing, heavy and light, coarse and fine. Notice that with a short breath, the chest expands, and with a long breath, the abdomen expands. It's good to practice breathing heavy and long for the health benefits. For a long breath, count between 3 and 10. Experiment with what is the appropriate length for a long breath and for a short breath for you. Buddhadasa also mentioned that some experienced meditators do long breaths up to 30 and 40 counts. He doesn't recommend that we try that, but just as an example of what's possible. First, we contemplate the flesh body as that which is conditioned by the breath. So again, he's talking about the breath coming first and affecting how we're doing how we're feeling in our body, physical body. Then we observe the breath as the conditioner of the flesh body. Lastly, we observe the activity of conditioning that always exists simultaneously between the breath and the flesh body. Thus, in the practice of step 3, we see the conditioner, the condition, and the process of conditioning. Step 3 is the work of seeing these 3 elements together simultaneously and continuously within the mind. So watching this interrelationship between our physical body and our breath. Step 4 is calming the breath. He trains thus: I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily formation. He trains thus: I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the bodily formation. I think this is an incredibly important step because it's showing us how to work the buttons, how to control our minds. Step 4 is calming the body conditioner, kaya sankara, while breathing in, and calming the body conditioner while breathing out. So you're following the breath. Buddhadasa says to run after it closely and then slip into the next step, which would be step 5. He also says you're guarding the breath at a certain point, so where the breath makes contact. So that just means guarding just means placing awareness, particularly at that point. He also talks about giving rise to an imaginary image, a nimitta, at that guarding point, like the tip of the nose. So that could just be like a little white dot or any little image. And he talks about how as you progress in meditation, you actually can start to change and affect that image as your mindfulness progresses. Oh yeah, number 4, manipulating these images in such a way as to gain power over them. And then 5, selecting one image and contemplating it in a most concentrated way until the breath becomes truly calm and peaceful. So working with that image is a way to help the mind, first of all, to know how your mindfulness is, and also to give it something to do so that you are better able to release any thoughts that are coming in, and just release them and let them go and come back to this task so that you're progressing in your meditation. Okay, now we're on to the second tetrad. Vedananupassana Satipatthana, contemplation of feelings. He trains thus: I shall breathe in experiencing rapture, PT. He trains thus: I shall breathe out experiencing rapture, PT. He trains thus: I shall breathe in experiencing pleasure, Sukha. He trains thus: I shall breathe out experiencing pleasure, Sukha. He trains thus: I shall breathe in experiencing the mental formation. He trains thus: I shall breathe out experiencing the mental formation. He trains thus: I shall breathe in tranquilizing the mental formation. He trains thus: I shall breathe out tranquilizing the mental formation. So notice before we were breathing in and out, tranquilizing the body. Now we're breathing in and out, tranquilizing the mental formation, and starting to go into the jhana states, the 4 lower jhanas. So step 5, part 1, there's a couple, I think 3 parts to step 5. PT rapture. Once the body conditioner, the breath is calmed, feelings of piti and sukha appear. We then take piti and sukha as the next objects of our practice. So this is important to understand this part, because we're going from having the nimitta as the object and the breath as the object, and following that and tranquilizing the body until like a warm, gooey feeling starts to appear. We go into the first jhana, collectedness. Then we start going into the second jhana, and more as the happiness is increasing. So if we calm the body, the kaya sankara, the first jhana and so forth, then piti and sukha will be full and complete as factors of jhana. In short, in the first step of Vedananupassana, the task is to know the joy that is still shaky and coarse. The shaky and coarse joy is called piti. Contemplate on this piti. Meanwhile, be conscious that everything, including piti, is not a self. It is only a feeling that arises according to the concoction of nature, or according to the law of iddhipacchagata, the law of causes and effects. to the meditation, and you start having that pleasant feeling happen, and then it even can go to a very stronger pleasant feeling of piti, you don't want to be attached and try and hold on to it. You want to just keep releasing it and progressing in your meditation, not be attached to that, because everything's impermanent. He talked about there being 5 kinds of piti: small piti, temporary piti, intermittent piti that comes and goes, violently exciting or rocking piti, bubeka piti, and pharana piti, which he said is sort of like the gold standard, suffusing piti or joy that spreads all over the flesh and body. So you get a warm feeling all over your body. I thought at this point I would just briefly just go over what the 7 enlightenment factors and the 8 jhanas are, just so you have it as a reference. But each of these are separate talks that have a lot of depth to them. Okay. Samadhi simply cannot, it's just that with meditation, everything is interrelated. So that's why it's important to know, again, the controls you're working with. Samadhi simply cannot arise if the mind is depressed or in an anxious state. As mentioned in the 7 bojjhanga or 7 enlightenment factors, there need to be sati, mindfulness, Dhamma vichaya, truth investigation. So that's that curiousness of the process of what's going on with the breath and the body. You're curious about it. Virya, effort. You keep returning to your meditation object, be it the nimitta or the feelings of joy arising. Piti, joy. So that's important for the progress. Followed by passaddhi, calmness, and upekkha or equanimity. That equanimity is the 4th jhana. All these 7 factors present to make enlightenment possible. So these are important to understand for how all this works. Rupa jhanas are the 4 lower jhanas. You start with collectedness, sort of that peacefulness in your body, and then you proceed through joy, happiness, and contentment, and then equanimity. Equanimity is a very strong feeling, so that if something were to come into your meditation space, maybe someone ran in with a gun, you would still be very calm and peaceful and just respond appropriately, and your mindfulness is very sharp by the time you get to that jhana. Then the 4 arupa jhanas, the higher level jhanas: infinite space, infinite consciousness, the base of nothingness, and then neither perception nor non-perception. The higher you get in the jhanas, the more experiencing you're getting with sunyata and emptiness, and letting the mind get used to being trained. Like in that the Dhamma talk I gave on dependent origination, I think it was back in June, where you had the guy leading the animal up the path of meditation and it getting cleaner and cleaner and everything sort of coming together. We have this amazing equipment and we're never taught how to work it. And that's what this is about. Okay, this is part 2 of step 5. The second part of step 5 requires our contemplation on sukha, or happiness. It is something that is useful and ought to be sought after. Immerse yourself in the absorption of sukha for some moments. Sukha has asata, or charm of its own. It can control the mind a great deal because it is a happy feeling. It leads to a satisfaction and happiness to an extent that further practice may not be possible. That's if you're clinging to it. It is not possible to perceive aniccham, dukkham, anatta, impermanent suffering and non-selfishness, because the meditator would be immersed in sukha. In a case like this, the sukha becomes the enemy of vipassana, or insight practice. The insight to perceive aniccham, dukkham, anatta is being destroyed or blocked by sukha. The meditator is not able to proceed to achieve vipassana because he is deeply infatuated with sukha. So again, this is just always that warning of to allow these pleasant feelings to exist, not try to stop them, not try and attach and cling to them and make them continue, but how important it is to know that it's possible in any moment, that you have the power to make yourself happy through following these steps, and what a relief that is. And then the mind becomes very sharp and pliable and can then better observe impermanence, suffering, and not self in a very deep way. Step 5, part 3, Chitta Sankara Patisanveti. I don't really know how to pronounce these things, means to contemplate on how piti and sukha concoct the mind in every inhalation and exhalation of yours. So again, you're using that investigation enlightenment factor here, being very curious about what's happening. This is the heart of the practice at step 3. See how the concoction induces thinking. Do notice where piti and sukha actually concoct or condition the mind, and know about it well until finally you are able to discern that the whole world comes under the power of the concoction or conditioning of piti and sukha. There's a lot more to that as you practice, but for here I'm just sort of laying out the basics, and then obviously this is a lifetime of study. A clear insight, vipassana, begins to emerge and turns into wisdom, panya. In part 1, we see the arising of samadhi. So that's the first part of this. While in part 2, which is all about Vedana, we see the surfacing of vipassana or insight. Wisdom begins to arise. Even in part 1, if the whole matter of the contemplation of the body, kaya-anupassana, is brought into consideration in the context of impermanence, the concoction of kaya sankhara, body conditioning, would be reduced to a certain degree. So if you're not clinging to the joyful feelings, then they don't get as strong, because you're not trying to increase those. You're just observing the process and going through the steps. But this is where you're starting to get vipassana into how impermanence works in a deep way. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Okay, step 6. I will breathe in and out, experiencing pleasure. In the second step of the second tetrad, or step 6 overall, experiencing sukha, we contemplate sukha with every inhalation and exhalation. We focus on sukha as arising out of piti. When piti has finished stimulating the citta in its coarse way, piti loses energy. That is, it calms down and transforms into sukha. As we contemplate sukha within the mind, our method of studying and training is identical to our practice with the breath and piti. How light is sukha? How heavy? How coarse is it? How subtle? How does sukha flavor awareness and experience? In Thai and Pali, we use the word drink to describe this experiencing. We drink the flavor of sukha while breathing in and breathing out, at the same time studying its nature and truth. Step 7, breathing in and out, experiencing the mental formation. Now we come to step 7, experiencing the mind conditioner. If we have successfully completed step 6, then we are familiar with the feelings of piti and sukha. What does the arising of piti do to the citta? How does the arising of sukha influence the citta, the mind? What kind of thoughts does piti condition? And what thoughts does sukha condition? We have noted and scrutinized these effects since steps 5 and 6. Once we come to step 7, it is easy to realize, piti and sukha are mind conditioners. These Vedana are mind conditioners in the same way that the breath is the body conditioner. The method of study and observation is the same in this step as in step 3. This is also very important, because you're realizing that while the breath is conditioning the body, once piti and sukha arise, the mind is calming down. Step 8, breathing in and out, tranquilizing the mental formation, so the thoughts. Step 8 is calming the mind conditioner. While breathing in and out, we make the citta sankhara, the Vedana, calm and peaceful by lessening their energy while breathing in and out. There are 2 approaches for us to use, the samadhi, concentration method, and the panya, wisdom method. The concentration method. We can calm piti's impulse with the samadhi method, in which we develop a higher level of concentration that removes piti and sukha from what is felt, such as the 3rd or 4th jhana. The real meaning of samadhi is having ekaggata citta, with nibbana as its object. Ekaggata citta is the mind gathered together into one pinnacle or peak. True samadhi has nibbana or santi, spiritual tranquility, as its object. The wisdom method. We use the panya that realizes the true nature, characteristics, qualities, conditions. So that's getting back to dependent origination. The wisdom of understanding it deeply while in meditation. Of all things, to understand how piti arises, and what will cause it to cease. So you're understanding that PT is temporary and that it's conditioned and it can be caused. PT bubbles up when a satisfying condition is achieved. PT ceases because of the lack of that satisfying condition, and thus we realize that it is illusory and not real or permanent. Okay, now we're to the third tetrad. I don't know how to pronounce that. Contemplation of the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe in experiencing the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe out experiencing the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe in gladdening the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe out gladdening the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe in concentrating the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe out concentrating the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe in liberating the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe out liberating the mind. Anicca Nupasi, contemplating impermanence. We must get to know this thing called citta or the mind. Now we call ourselves we. Where is this we? Does this we really exist? We is actually citta or the mind. Without the mind, we cannot exist. But we are used to calling ourselves we. Thus, it becomes a strange word that suggests the existence of a self or selves in the language that we speak, and that can make us confused. Step 9, principles for the practice of Cittanupassana Satipatthana. The first step of this tetrad is contemplating or experiencing the mind in all its aspects. This is called Cittapatisavedi, experiencing the condition or state of mind during any given moment. What are the mind's characteristics at this moment? Thoroughly understanding our own citta is the specific objective of this step. See if the mind is filled with lobha, greed, dosa, hatred, and moha, delusion. Delusion would be ignorance of the wheel of dependent origination, not being aware of where you are in that and how that's working in your own mind. If it is being distracted or not, or whether it is composed of high virtues. Notice if there is even higher mind or not, and if the mind is being stabilized, so if the thought proliferation is coming down. Lastly, see whether the mind is being set free from its attachment to all the Dhammaram or mind objects. So at this step in your meditation, you're able to observe the thoughts, observe where you are in the links of dependent origination, and you can even walk back down the links to see where contact was and what set off those thoughts. You can play with those links and understand deeply how that is even arising in your own mind. Step 10, delighting the mind. In the second tetrad, we develop the mind's ability to be independent of feeling and to have control over the Vedana. This is crucial. Step 10 is to make the mind joyful, delighted, and content. It is important to be able to control the mind so that it feels satisfied and glad while breathing in and out. Also, I meant to tell you, Buddhadasa does recommend that if you want, you can start with the first 4 steps and then skip right to the last 4 steps as sort of a shortcut to not doing all 16. It is easy to delight the mind when we can understand the cause of joyfulness. Joyfulness comes from the feeling of being successful, of having correctly and successfully completed an activity. An easy way to delight the mind is to return to practicing steps 1, 2, and 3 again. Go back to the beginning and practice each step successfully. So he's talking about how now that you get to this point, you can go back to step 1, practice it again, and you're getting better control over it. You're understanding how this process works and how to make the body peaceful, how to make the body happy, and then how to make the mind peaceful and the mind happy. And because the mindfulness becomes very sharp. A delightful mind is a necessity for samadhi and vipassana. With each inhalation and exhalation, let there be delightfulness in the mind. It is only a delightful mind that can be a factor for the building up of higher level samadhi. So this is important to know, is how important the jhanas are as part of the process. In fact, Buddhadasa said that the Buddha used to tell the monks when, instead of saying to them to go meditate, to go do jhana. until any level of insight requires a mind that has gone through, which is then restrained by calmness. People in general do not know that for prama, or joy and delight as its capital. If the mind experiences this kind of delight and also sukha or happiness, there is a hope that it will generate samadhi, and a true knowledge of what things really are in accordance with real facts will be attained. So part of what Buddhadasa is trying to encourage people to do is that by practicing this meditation regularly and learning how all this works, and then how you're able to calm the mind, then you have a mind that's really flexible and capable of doing tasks, and how important it is for those lower condition the mind so that it can be very focused and applied to different tasks that you need to do during the day. So it's a very practical, it's not just a, go off to the woods and meditate kind of thing and leave society. This is very practical for everyone, for every day. Step 11, stabilizing the mind. We're now reaching the 11th step of the whole practice. Part 3, the stabilizing of the mind. Make the mind stable. Samahito means stabilize. In the language of Anapanasati, I don't know what that is, means to stabilize the mind. Inhale and exhale. Meanwhile, stabilize the mind. So contemplate on a stable mind and notice that it has the following characteristics. 1, pure, parisuddha, with nothing to disturb it. 2, stable, samahito, by gathering all the strength to a single point, so it's easy to focus and concentrate it. Kamaniya, which means ideal for performing duty as well as active. It can be well led into contemplation on anicam, dukkam, anatta. So again, that would be, again, on the wheel of dependent origination. Easy to see how that's working at that point. These are the characteristics of a mind with samadhi. Of liberating the mind. When the mind possesses mindfulness and wisdom, it abandons all the undesirable or harmful feelings together with the causes of mental defilements. It controls or stops the arising of mental desires or defilements. This is what we call the mind doing the task of liberating or setting itself free. Thus, what one has to do is to allow all the harmful feelings, be it the 5 hindrances, greed, hatred, and delusion, be brought under one's control and stop it from arising. Let it slip from the mind, or let the mind slip from it. Whichever way you like, it will yield the same result. Just say it in the mind, enough, I won't have anything more to do with you anymore, and then abandon and push out all the troubles from the mind. So the more you practice these steps, and as you meditate, you realize that you really have the ability to release your thoughts quite easily. And you get sick of listening to them. And so you can just release them and not have, you have a mind that is stable and actually can experience emptiness where you don't have any thoughts coming up. You can see them arise and release them very, very quickly. Okay, now a little bit about the 4 kinds of attachment. Material objects valued by sensuality, such as possessions, necessities, gems, jewelry, gold, etc. All these are the foundations of sensuality and sexuality. They are objects of attachment. Incorrect opinions, beliefs, views, and theories. Because of avijja, ignorance, we are attached to these things. We have many incorrect opinions and views, and this is always something we can pay attention to in our daily life. 3, religious and secular superstitions, practices, and customs that we follow. Last and most important of all is the category of all the things that we are attached to as I or mine. These 4 main categories include all the things that we grasp. Continually examine every kind of attachment with every inhalation and exhalation. In this way, they are released in an automatic letting go. Release the objects of attachment. Let go, let go, let go. The 4th tetrad, Dhammanupassana Satipatthana, contemplation of mind objects, Dhamma. He trains thus, I shall breathe in contemplating impermanence. He trains thus, I shall breathe out contemplating impermanence. He trains thus, I shall breathe in contemplating fading away. He trains thus, I shall breathe out contemplating fading away. He trains thus, I shall breathe in contemplating cessation. He trains thus, I shall breathe out contemplating cessation. He trains thus, I shall breathe in contemplating relinquishment. He trains thus, I shall breathe out contemplating relinquishment. Step 3, Anicca Nupasi, contemplating impermanence. For this step of Anicca Nupasi, we return to the beginning step. First, we contemplate just the breath until we see that it is impermanent. The various conditions and characteristics of the breath are impermanent. The breath's effect on the body is also impermanent. Next, observe that both bodies, the breath body and the flesh body, are impermanent. Then watch the calming of the breath. Here, impermanence becomes even more obvious. The breath changes from coarse to calm, but even that calmness is impermanent. The state of the breath keeps changing. Contemplate each step one at a time until each phase is seen to be impermanent. Eventually, the feelings of piti and sukha arise. Watch them one by one. See impermanence in each and every aspect of these Vedana. Contemplate the impermanence of the conditioning of the mind by the feelings. Impermanence in every step. Next, we watch the citta itself. It too is impermanent. The gladdening and refreshing of the mind as it changes to delight and joyfulness is impermanent. Contemplate the impermanence of this freshness and delight along with its various conditions and flavors. Concentration itself is impermanent, for it changes to non-concentration. The activeness of samadhi is impermanent. Realize impermanence in each and every step, in each and every one of the interconnected points, phases, and aspects of this practice. Directly experience impermanence in everything, so the arising and the passing away, arising and passing away. Redo each of the steps. Make the impermanence of each step absolutely clear, undoubtedly obvious, completely certain. This is how we contemplate the impermanence of all these passing phenomena, which are collectively known as sankhara. And if you remember, it was the monk Kanyana who became enlightened with just deeply understanding impermanence in all of its aspects when he heard the Buddha give the first teaching on the Four Noble Truths after he became enlightened. Okay, a complete understanding of impermanence. Please understand that the realizations of these truths are interrelated. From seeing impermanence, we see unsatisfactoriness. We see anatta, or not self. We see sunyata, or emptiness. We see tatata, or thusness. And we see idappaccayata, or the law of conditionality as well. Each continues into the next. A complete realization of impermanence must include unsatisfactoriness, not self, voidness, thusness, and the law of causality. When we see all of these, then we have seen impermanence completely and in the most profound way. This is how we fully realize the impermanence of sankhara. Impermanence dissolves attachment. So again, this is very important. This is teaching us how to let go of the things that are holding us back. Now observe, study closely until you see it, that the realization of anicca dissolves upadana, dissolves attachment. This is crucial. Realizing anicca dissolves attachment because we realize the pain and suffering of that attachment. Upadana dissolves until less and less remains. Such is the result of realizing impermanence. It makes us weary, bored, and disenchanted with all the things to which we continue to be attached and were ever attached. Then upadana begins to dissolve. This is the result of truly seeing impermanence. So when this happens, then we become much more attached to studying the Dhamma and meditating and trying to make progress on the path, because we realize that all the things we used to be excited about out in the world are just temporary and impermanent and do not lead to any lasting happiness. Step 14, Dhammanupassana. Here we see the arising of viraga, detachment, or the gradual loosening of the sense of attachment. It is also known as viraga nupasi, the sighting of detachment. Inhale and exhale and notice the fading of the attachment to the concept of self. When we say attachment to self, we actually mean the mind because we speak in the context of ordinary language. There is no self, but there is a mind. We see and experience the fading of attachment with each inhalation and exhalation till Nibbana Jnana begins to emerge. I'll read the next one and then I'll explain what that is. Upadana dissolves under the light of seeing things as they truly are. Aniccham, dukkam, anatta, sunyata, tathata, and idapachigata. We know that attachment is lessening when we are even-minded toward sankhara, namely toward all things to which we were once attached. When we are unprejudiced toward them all, we realize viraga, the fading away of attachment. Contemplate this with every inhalation and exhalation. This is how to practice step 14. So Ajahn Buddhadasa talks about getting a temporary taste of nibbana during meditation. And when suddenly you can wisely see your situation in the world and maybe all the things you were upset about before you started meditating no longer seem to be a problem or important. You're no longer attached to those things and you deeply see emptiness and you realize that even not having a self is just fine, perfectly fine. So it's getting used to that and replacing, slowly replacing who you thought you were, the self, the permanent self you thought you were, with this larger conception of self. Step 15, Nirodhanupasi is the study and contemplation of the quenching of attachment. We observe the cessation of attachment, the non-existence of attachment, while breathing in and breathing out. We can observe quenching or cessation from a variety of perspectives. The quenching of attachment to self, the quenching of selfishness, the quenching of greed, anger, and delusion, and the quenching of all experiences of dukkha. All occur with the quenching of attachment. There are many forms of nirodha. A full realization of this step must include all four aspects of dukkha's quenching. Quench the fear of birth, aging, illness, and death. Quench the symptoms of dukkha, such as pain, sorrow, sadness, and despair. Quench the wants and desires of agreeable and disagreeable things. Finally, quench the view of any of the five khandha as self. When these four aspects are quenched, then dukkha is quenched. We should not underestimate this important realization. Again, another reason why it's so important to practice meditation and even to go on retreats to really make deep progress. Final step, step 16. The last step, the fourth step of the fourth tetrad, the 16th step of Anapanasati is called Patinisaganupasi, contemplating throwing back. Patinisaga is a curious word. It means to throw back or give back. When we arrive at this step, we contemplate our throwing back, our returning everything to which we were once attached. This is step 16. Be well aware that this is the way to emancipation. Anapanasati successfully practiced through this final step brings emancipation or liberation. When we are liberated from all bonds, we either let go of all burdens or release ourselves out from under those burdens. Whether we say letting go of ourselves or letting go of the burdens, the meaning of the realization is the same. So this is, all the things we worry about and are attached to, we no longer see as ours. If someone were to steal something from us, we wouldn't see it as mine or, you took something from me. So it's a different way of looking at the world that we have to continue to practice. Okay, now I'm going to go into the benefits that Buddhadasa talked about with doing these meditation. The 4 Kamra Dhammas is the first benefit of doing this meditation. Sati, mindfulness, Panya, wisdom, Sampajana, wisdom in action or clear insight, and Samadhi, concentration. While we are living in this world, the 4 Kamra Dhammas enable us to subdue all threats. With them, we can rid ourselves of dukkha. We must use these 4 Kamra Dhammas to live, whether inside or outside the monastery, in family life, or wherever we find ourselves. So again, he's saying if you practice this meditation, these 16 steps, you'll develop mindfulness, wisdom, sampajana, clear sight, and samadhi, concentration in your daily life. It's of great benefit. First, we have sati, mindfulness. When a sense object makes contact, mindfulness is there and brings panya. So what is he talking about? The wheel of dependent origination here. Your awareness, your mindfulness sharpens to be able to see it coming. Once it arrives, panya transforms into sampajana, wisdom in action or clear insight, the specific application of wisdom required by the situation so that you can respond instead of reacting with clinging. Then samadhi's power and strength are added to sampajana. With all four comrades, we are able to conquer every kind of object that comes in through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So the second benefit, paticca samuppada. Another benefit of practicing anapanasati is that we are able to practice in accordance with the principle of paticca samuppada. A series of causes, each dependent on a previous cause, leads to suffering. Once we come to its practical application, however, dependent co-origination is exquisitely simple. In practice, it means having sati or mindfulness in the moment of phassa or sense contact. That is all. Phassa is the meeting of an internal sense organ, a corresponding external sense object, and the appropriate type of sense consciousness, vijnana. Simply having sati in the moment of phassa completely solves all the possible problems of paticca samuppada. In other words, before conditioned co-arising can develop, sati should be right there at the moment of contact. Do not let it be ignorant phassa. Sati is present, then that contact will not lead to ignorant feeling, and ignorant feeling will not lead to foolish craving, tanha. It will all stop right there at contact. This is another advantage of training in anapanasati. It makes sati sufficiently abundant, fast, and capable of performing its duty in the moment of phassa to stop the stream of paticca samuppada right then and there. So this is why it's so important in this meditation, as he describes the practice, that once we progress through, we get to the point of noticing how the wheel of dependent origination is spinning around in our own minds, and then get used to releasing that and having emptiness there. And that's how once we practice this in meditation, then we can go into our daily lives and have a much better chance of practicing this in our daily lives as well. The third benefit, the heart of the triple gem. A further benefit is that anapanasati easily, completely, and perfectly brings us the triple gem, the three refuges of Buddhism. This is because the essence or nucleus of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha is its cleanliness, clarity, and calm. The state of citta that is clean, clear, and calm is the essence of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Please be careful about these words. Lord Buddha is not some physical body or image. Rather, the state of mind that is clean, clear, and calm is the true Lord Buddha. When we practice anapanasati, we make our citta clean, clear, and calm. These qualities are the fruit of raga, nirodha, and patinisaga, steps 14 through 16. Through them, there is cleanliness, clarity, and calmness. Pretty self-explanatory. Fourth benefit, sila, samadhi, and panya. In practicing anapanasati correctly, the most fundamental principle of Buddhism is fulfilled. It leads to sila, samadhi, and panya in full measure. This is an enormous benefit, practicing Buddhism in its entirety. When we study Buddhism in more detail, we learn about the 7 enlightenment factors. In the Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha asserts that fully practicing the 16 steps of anapanasati perfects the 4 satipatthana, applications of mindfulness. Through the perfection of the 4 satipatthana, the subjects of the 4 tetrads, body, feeling, mind, and Dhamma, the 7 enlightenment factors are perfected. Then full awakening is assured. So again, it's so important how all this is interrelated, and to take the time to learn about it, because you don't even need to worry as much about rules and what you need to be doing in each moment, like what's the moral thing, because you're at that higher level of wisdom at that point, having this going on in your mind. The fifth benefit, nibbana here and now. The greatest possible benefit of the practice of mindfulness with breathing is that without having to die, we will have nibbana in this very life. Anapanasati eliminates the fires, that is, the defilements. Although it is only temporary, the fires disperse and there is coolness for a while. Anapanasati helps us to sample nibbana little by little, moment by moment during this very life, and nothing has to die. Then the duration of that coolness is lengthened, its extent broadened, and its frequency increased until there is perfect nibbana. And these are the books I read to help me prepare this talk. So I have these here so that if any of you guys want to read them, you absolutely can. That's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, now we start by the question and answer. Anyone, Kong, who have prepare the question? Anyone?
Yeah,
it's very good talk for the 16 step. You know I found from the book, but I never heard anyone that talking the 16 step. That's very good, and I recorded today, and we're going to, and many more people are interesting in the future. Okay, Kong, do you have any question?
Yeah, any questions? I don't have any question from the chat group. I was so absorbed into following the 16 steps. I was not putting any questions into the chat group. But I think it's open. Anyone can
Okay.
either put in the chat group or ask questions to K C.
Yeah, I went through it very quickly, and there was a lot more I could have talked about at each point. But I'm trying to be cognizant of time.
Okay. Any questions or anyone? If not, I can ask one question that I took note as I followed through the 16 step. So I'm just, one of the difficulty in terms of practicing the meditation, I realized you mentioned the word noticing. So a lot of time, my challenge is actually noticing the state of my mind. Like if I stray away, or if I get out of control, or if I allow anger to take over my state of mind, I think the practice of meditation is also having the ability to notice when your state of mind has actually went out of alignment, I would say. So I don't know, from your practice on the meditation, how does it help you to create that ability to notice that moment that I'm not in control?
Okay, so this goes back to that spaceship analogy that I used at the beginning, right? Is figuring out what your controls are in your when you're sitting in your mind, where are the controls? And if you start with the first 4 steps, the breath and the body, and you just leave the thoughts alone, leave them be, just keep with your meditation object as best you can, your mindfulness will sharpen a lot. And also, you'll start progressing through the jhanas. You'll start having joy arise, sukha, collectedness. You'll start going through those lower jhanas. And remember what I said in that one slide, that joy and delightfulness is like the food for the mind. The mind needs that to be able to be really flexible and sharp. So once you start getting through the jhanas, your mindfulness becomes very, very sharp, and it becomes easy to notice thoughts arising and release them. So you have to have some patience with yourself in the beginning and keep focusing on your process of going through the jhanas, so that then you get to that point where your mind is what he calls active and ready to work, right? To do that process of better. At that point, you're no longer confused and sort of consumed by all these thoughts running in the background. You actually can see them arise and notice, oh, that's my habit. That's what I'm doing. And then release it. And you have that clear wisdom of, oh, this is how I'm concocting my identity. I'm attached to earning money or to getting noticed or whatever it might be that's arising, and release it as being not you. It's not yourself.
Thank you.
That Thank you, Kong. And the Casey mentioned, I think the one point, Casey, when the people talking about the nibbana, and I never heard anyone say anything about the temporary nibbana and how to living with the temporary nibbana. Yeah, baby, can you explain more about that for the daily life, for the lay people, how they can attain the nibbana? Many problem. The lay people, they have a lot of problem, and they said no way to get a nibbana, to reach the nibbana. But I think when you explain, that means everyone can attain the nibbana for your daily life, right? Okay, more explain, please. Okay.
Okay, so, well, in my experience, the temporary nibbana is usually something that's attained on a meditation retreat. So you go through the process of all the thoughts become exhausted. The mind kind of stops trying to control you, and now you're the one in control of your mind. You've got your controls figured out at that point. Your energy is balanced. Your mindfulness is clear. Everything is in alignment, and you can easily see the wheel of dependent origination and not be caught in it. That's the point where you can experience emptiness and peacefulness and have a temporary state of knowing what it would be like to be in this new identity. It's like we're trying to transform ourselves from one set of habits of having a personal self and attachment to that personal self. And the wheel of dependent origination is just an automatic pilot running in the background all the time that keeps us attached to that permanent self. It's important for survival, right? We're worried about surviving. We're clinging and grasping as a way to get us food. I mean, if you think of it like a video game, it's sort of like you start off with a character, and there's this little Casey on the screen, and this Casey is concerned about going and grabbing food and tilling the soil and doing all this stuff. And then the video game progresses as you go through the 16 steps, as you go through the jhanas. It progresses to where now your little character isn't so worried about grabbing all these things because they're able to consciously control and be mindful and regulate their processes. So then you don't have that wheel arising, and then you're able to respond in your daily life with a calm, clear mind, empty, and just respond with wisdom to each moment that comes along, and without having all the running in the background. But that takes training to calm that down, to calm that wheel, and to see the wheel clearly is very tough to do on a daily basis unless you're practicing in meditation. So that's the reason why doing these meditation retreats are so important. I will say this, though, in terms of just daily life. Once you start practicing this way, it becomes much easier to do it in daily life. So you actually get very good at going through the jhanas quickly. So at first, it takes a lot of time and dedication to figure this out. But once you practice it enough, then you come and meditate. And maybe, let's say you only have 45 minutes to meditate, let's say, for that day. You can already progress quite a bit through the jhanas. And in the process of doing that, your mind calms down, your thoughts calm down, you're filled with that happiness and that joyfulness, maybe even some equanimity, so that as you go about your day, your mind is, first of all, much more able to perform whatever tasks you need to do. Much more energy, much more flexibility, and able to do it. And you're much less likely to get caught in the wheel of dependent origination. You're much more likely to be able to see it happening in your life. Maybe not in every single moment all the time, but you're much less likely to get caught, and you can start to see in your daily life, oh, here's my habit. You see it happening, like, oh, this is how I'm creating my own suffering. You can become aware of that. So it might not be able to have temporary nibbana all day long, but by getting that experience, it's so beneficial to translate into your daily life and improve the life every day.
Thank you. Very clear. You know, when I wanted from the beginning in Seattle to start the temple in Wat Atam. You know, sometimes the people they come to the temple and they tell me they want to do something like we call the Sadokla. I don't know in English. You know, Sadokla. You know that they want the monk to do some kind of magic thing to them. You know, to be a long life, And I tell them that, okay, life, the meaning of life, it is a two meaning. Okay, one for the physical body, and then another one for the mind. You know, I want to support what the K C explained. You know, because of when the mind calm, you know, when any moment, you know, when the desire arising by eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, and then your mind is not change. I mean, when there's something coming and you understand and you realize that, but you're not moved to your mind to be up or down. You not go to the positive or the negative. That means your life is long. Your life is long. You know, that means that from the physical body, from the mind, not the physical body. For the physical body, we don't know. And the doctor can help. Doctor know. Baby, you can stay for how long, and then maybe the doctor know. But for the mind, you know, no one know. We have to take care by ourselves. You know, when the desire or defilement, you know, arising, and anytime when the desire arising, your mind go up or down, always go up or down. I love to explain this at a temple, you know, when the people come, you know, to explain, tell them that easy. I tell them that easy in the Dhamma is not difficult to maintain your mind and continue to be very peaceful, very, 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 very peaceful to living. But you have to understand. I mean, understand when a desire arising, you not let your mind change. When let your mind change, that means your light short. Your light short, maybe you are go up to go to the positive. That means the original physical and the mind, it changed already. To be the active, to be the exciting, you know, and then it not too long, and not stay too long, you know, and come back down again. What the K C said, come back down to original mind again. When you come back down to original mind, that means you're born and you pass away one time. And again, you're going to start again, to be born again and pass away, born and pass away, born and pass away. That means you're born and pass away a couple, maybe 1,000 times a day. 1,000 times a day. And how suffering, you can see how they create a lot of suffering. That's why in the Buddhism they said we need to stop to be born. To be born is it not born from the physical, but it's born from the mind, the feeling. Born from the feeling. That when you maintain the original mind, that means you attain the nibbana, the temporary nibbana. Nibbana, that means when you're arahant, that means the one who living without any kilesa. That means you maintain your mind. That means you can attain the arahanta. Arahantship, that means you have no kilesa. No kilesa. That I think is that I support the K C very clear to understand about the temporary nibbana. We have to attain the temporary nibbana before we go to the real nibbana. Okay, maybe another person have to don't want to discuss about this. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, do you have another?
Any more questions? Maybe I just want to share thoughts. When I first came to Singapore, the first thing that I learned is actually they tell me about the 5 C's. The 5 C's. So I noticed KC also mentioned about the 3 C's. The 5 C's in Singapore is actually car, cash, condominium, club membership, and credit card. So that was the 5 C's that I learned when I came to Singapore. And KC, thank you for sharing your 3 C's, which is actually even more important when you talk about the essence of Buddhism. You talk about the triple gem. So it's about cleanliness, it's about clear and calm. So I think the 3 C's are good learning for me, actually, because when I first came here, they taught me about the 5 C's. So wrong understanding. So I think now I learned about the new 3 C's to be clean, clear, and calm. So thank you for sharing. Yeah.
You know, back in that other talk I gave in June, I showed the tanka with the elephant being led, up the path to Nibbana. And it showed, I think, the monkey and, there was a couple other animals there that represented like the mind and stuff. And so it showed how the elephant became less and less black as it went on the path. That's the mind becoming clean and clear. And that's then those other aspects, everyone becoming integrated. Like at the very end, they're on top of the elephant riding it and everybody's together. I think there's a rabbit too. So that's when we learn to control our mind. I mean, I think one thing Buddha Dasa really emphasizes is that we have the power over our own happiness in every moment. If we learn how to work our equipment, if we learn the buttons, if we learn how the breath and the body and all this works, we have the power to have happiness in every single moment.
Yeah, that we have that picture in the meditation hall in Wat Atam, in Wat Atam. Yes, yeah, and many people, they not understand the moment. I mean, the Dhamma for the daily life, because they said, oh, I'm very difficult. I have to work, I have to do the thing, I have to take care of the family, they have to go to run away everywhere, and many, many things. They said, I said, that means it's good, because when you have the thing, that means you can deal with the Dhamma. The family, I know that the family is not easy too, but that's why you can use the Dhamma. You can use the Dhamma to deal with that. I think it's more experience for the lay people, because I'm living in a temple. I don't have the conflict like that. I don't have the people to do like that. I don't not have to deal. That's why the Buddha said the monk have to be poor and living single. We don't have the family. We don't have to worry too much about the food, the clothes, the shelter, the medicine. They're not worried too much. That means we have time to do practice. We have time to do help than other people, But for the lay people, it means we have to do practice a lot. Like what the Casey explained today, you have to do a lot. You have to, every moment, try to understand every moment and do what we can. One another thing, Casey did clear and explain, one another thing, the Buddha Dasa, I love what he said. He said, Dhamma is the duty. Can you explain that the Dhamma is the duty? Duty is the Dhamma. Duty is Dhamma. That for the one who be the lay people, can use this kind of the Dhamma. Okay.
Yeah, it's very important because we're walking around as long as we're walking around with ignorance, we're creating suffering for ourselves and for everyone around us. So by working hard to understand how the Dhamma is working in our daily life moment to moment, which I see as paticca samuppada, going around and around moment to moment, then we're lessening the amount of suffering that we're creating for ourselves, and we're lessening the amount of suffering that we're creating for other people and for the world. And then the self, like Buddha Dasa always said, how selfishness is ruining the world, which we could easily see evidence of that everywhere, and with our environment, with our families, with everything. So we change the way that we look at the world when we start to experience emptiness.
Okay. Okay.
What do you say?
Anyone have any idea?
Yes.
Okay.
We have to know about the 5 meaning of Dhamma. And you will know Dhamma is duty.
Oh.
Dhamma, it means thing. Dhamma, it means thing or nature. And in nature,
you the one to explain. Please explain the four kind of the Dhamma. Okay.
Dhamma mean thing or nature. And in nature, we have the law of nature. It is the meaning of Dhamma. In nature, we have law of nature. And the third, we have to practice according to the law of nature to get the highest benefit, both yourself and others. This is the meaning of duty. You have duty to perform according to the law of nature to get the highest benefit, both yourself and others. And after that, when you practice like this, make yourself calm or peaceful mind, and make the community harmony, the highest benefit when you practice duty. So everyone have duty to perform. Like you are mother, how mother to perform your duty for your son, for your kid. You perform your duty good, take care and do everything. Or monk have duty to perform their duty very good, and to practice themselves calm mind, calm body, and make people around you harmony. This is the duty to perform the Dhamma.
Thank you.
Hey, Cassie, I think Alice have a question for you.
Okay.
With regards to the meditation. So you can see in the chat group. So her question is that, can you give an advice and strategy how to stay concentrated during meditation? Yet, in your surrounding, you might have disturbance and that might kind of absorb your concentration.
So the steps themselves really help. But in particular, if you have disturbance in your environment while meditating, it's actually really great, because then you get the opportunity to see the wheel of dependent origination operating in your mind through sense contact. So for example, let's say you're meditating, and let's say you have a pain in your shoulder that's annoying you, and your attention keeps being drawn to it all the time. Then you have thoughts proliferate about that. Oh, maybe I should move. Maybe I should do something to stop that pain. That's making it so that I can't have joy. It's actually fabulous, because that's allowing you to see that happening in your mind, what your thoughts are, and you release that. You release your attachment to that pain. The pain will go away. I call them meditation emergencies. It happens every time, usually when I start meditating and I haven't done it for a while. It'll go away. It's impermanent. You understand that deeply, and then you have that enlightenment factor of that curiosity, that investigation, where you use it as an opportunity to see where you're clinging and to release it, to see where you're grasping and release it. And you see the sense contact. Oh, it's a pain. Oh, then the craving. I don't like it. I want it to go away. And then the clinging, how can I make it go away? Maybe I can move. Maybe I can stretch. This is the wheel going around. You just don't pay attention. You just train the mind. You release it. Also, I was going to say, in daily life, You can practice the breathing to make the body happy and peaceful, no matter where you are, anywhere. If I'm standing in line somewhere, it's great. Practice the breathing. Notice the breathing. Long and calm, long and fine breaths help make the mind peaceful. So also, Alice, notice that is the breathing impacts the thoughts. So you start to breathe long and calm. I imagine like peaceful waves, like warm waves of energy going up and down my body. That helps me get a nice, warm, gooey sensation all over my body when I'm meditating. And then the thoughts naturally calm down.
Okay, Casey, thanks for the explanation. Actually, what I meant by the be alert of the surrounding, just like maybe the external, when we are meditating, we are very focused on our breathing. You see, actually, but we have to be alert of the external, the surrounding. Maybe the surrounding, sometimes you feel like, oh, you're not very settled because we feel like you get some worry. We might be in danger. You feel like, oh, maybe something happened. Maybe I take a very extreme example, just like, oh, it's on fire. Maybe it's on fire. So you are juggling. You have to make a decision whether I still continue or I go and check. Is there any problem?
Yeah,
on the external surrounding?
That's also what I call a meditation emergency. Is all of a sudden there is an emergency. I forgot to call the doctor and make this appointment. You know, sometimes if my mind is restless, I keep a little notepad next to me when I meditate and I'll write it down. That way I'm like, okay, when I'm done meditating, I can go check on that. I can call that person. I can deal with that. Just write it down. And then that allows me to just forget about it. Just release it.
I see. It's like when we are meditating, sometimes the external always like, we call it disturbance, always have all these disruption and all these.
Lots of meditation emergencies happen, Alice. Just ignore them. It's okay. I also say, it's okay. All these things will be there when I return to the world. It's okay. In 30 minutes, everything will be there.
I see. Okay. I have another question. That this question is like, sometimes I have a confusion. You see, meditation is something like about myself. You see, I meditate that. Is there some controversy with the Buddhism teaching that no I and mine? You see, meditate actually is good for yourself. But in Buddhism teaching, the Buddha teaches we can't be selfish, So we have to, how can this meditation in a bigger prospect that can link to the Buddhism that no I and mine meditation?
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about before, where Buddhadasa says that the mind actually needs delight and happiness in order to be sharp and aware of what's going on. And that's your only chance for catching the wheel of dependent origination. So what you think about it is, how in the airplane, they say that the mom has to put the mask on herself first before doing the child. Because otherwise, if the air is out of the plane, the mom will just pass out and not be able to help her child. So it's the appropriate kind of selfishness, the best kind, because then once you do meditation, once you take care of what's running around in your mind and you calm everything down, then you go about your day and you're much more helpful to everyone around you. You bring joy and blessings to everyone in your life. And so it's actually one of those situations where it's taking care. It's like taking a shower. You can say, well, taking a shower is selfish because I enjoy that. Well, you need to take a shower. You clean your body. It's part of your duty. Same way with meditation. You need to clean your mind. If you don't clean your mind, you're creating unnecessary suffering for everyone, including yourself. If you clean your mind, then you go about your day calm and peaceful and much more effective.
I see. Because I don't know. I grew up in an environment that always, when you see in a village, when people go for meditation for hours and hours, the first perception you say that this person, like whoever practice, is like selfish. They just, they're peaceful, they're calm and for themselves. Actually, this is This is the mindset, the perception of, okay, this is selfishness. If you spend an hour every day, it's for yourself. Actually, no one gain benefit for the perception wise, but actually, indeed, that is a bigger, as what you mentioned, that the people surrounded you will be happy and you know how to make a good, right decision and make the whole community, people that surrounded you be calm and how to make a best decision and helping others. But that kind of perception that
well, and the more you practice meditation in depth, like at a retreat, for example, you make a lot more progress towards having that temporary nibbana that I talked about. So then you're much more focused in your daily life to, first of all, when you meditate in daily life, you can make progress faster through the jhanas. You have better able to control your emotions and your feelings, better able to make yourself happy. Then it translates to your daily life so that you know how to do these things even when you're not meditating.
Can I just add on? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Casey.
No, you go.
Can I just add on to what Alice have said? I think it goes back to what we discussed earlier. Dhamma is duty. Duty is Dhamma. We all have our duty. If our duty is to meditate, then that's our duty. But we also have our own duty. So as long as we do not go to the extreme, that we practice meditation to the extreme, we spend 10 hours to meditate. So as long as you manage your time to say that my duty as a mother, as a father, I have to perform my duty, that has to be done. And meditation is part of my duty too, because if I keep that good mental state of mind, I'm calm, it helps the people in the surrounding. So I think it goes back to, I believe everything is back to what we always say, the middle way, not to the extreme. Don't do everything to the extreme. So we have to do our duty and we follow the middle way. So that to me, I think is that balance is critical.
Yes.
That you're right. I got a lot of the question when I living in U.S. The people come and said, how long I have to sitting doing meditation? And some people, they said for 4 hours a day, 3 hours a day. I said, you can do, but I don't know, you are another thing, you're doing another thing or not. Did you cook the food? Did you do the, many things? You have to take care of a lot of things first. And then when you have time and do meditate, you have time and do meditate. And usually I love what we discussed today, for the Dhamma, for the daily life, the duty, what we are doing. Just doing that thing is good, possible what you can. And then in the same time, you take care of your mind. And take care of your mind. When you contact, at the moment of contact, when you deal with the people, when you talk to the people, you have to be very careful. That means you have to have the mindful to talk to the people. You have to mindful to discuss and have to mindful to do everything. This is helpful. The Dhamma just be very helpful for everyone to practice like that. Okay?
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about a meditation. We talk about meditation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So meditation, we have 4 kinds of mindfulness or meditation. We talk about contemplation with body, contemplation with feeling, contemplation with mind, contemplation with Dhamma. So people sometimes think about when they want to practice, they think about only sitting meditation. But in daily life, mindfulness with body, feeling. So everywhere, when you ride a car, you have to pay attention. When you listen to someone, when you talk, when you taste, when you smell something, when you touch something, and when you think about something, we have to pay attention and try to control your mind in the middle way. So it means not positive and negative. Try to keep your mind like an original mind, not good or bad. It means calm, original mind, pure. So this is mindfulness to this. So when you eat, good or bad, you try to know what the purpose of eating. Not attached to the taste. You try to control like this. So when you use the clothes, what the purpose of you use your clothes? when you feel about something, what you feel, good or bad, if you can control, it means you never die. It means you not go heaven or go to hell. If you angry or worry, jealousy, conceit a lot, you will go another world, because you form your body and mind to become new mind, new body. You have to use mindfulness everywhere, every time, every moment. They practice meditation.
Thank you.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
I see P Nampet, you raise your hand. You have a question. Can you?
Yeah. Forgive me. Maybe you can help enlighten me, because you frequently use the word temporarily or temporary nirvana, right? This whole meaning of nirvana, help enlighten me, because we have many monks here, many practitioners. How does that relate to like terms like the once returner, the twice returner? And so you have, I guess, the Thai Pali word or whatever. It's like Anakami and Sakitakami, and then the Arahant. So does that mean that it is like a turnstile in which if we relapse, then we get back down to the level of the twice returner, and then if we progress, then we go up the scale a little bit to the once returner, and then if we're really good on some day, we go to the non-returner. Is it like a revolving kind of situation where our consciousness and our behavior and our mindfulness practice and everything, it keeps shifting according to where the consciousness is? I hope I'm making sense. Is it like a temporary returner, temporary arahant, or how does it work there?
That's a really good question. I'm not as familiar with those terms in the suttas right now, because I haven't been studying that. So maybe one of the venerables could answer that.
Shall I try to frame it in Thai or something?
No, that okay. And Thammavat, you want to explain about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you will go another world. You can become human. You can become hell being, or you can become celestial being. So we have many, maybe 32 level. 32 level. Yeah? Today we cannot discuss about it, because there are many like hell being, human being, living being, or sentient being, celestial being.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's asking specifically about Sotapanna and those other stages, like being a stream enterer, once returner. Those are.
Yeah. If if you mind free, it means you attain emancipation. You cannot go any world, because the quality to become you don't have. You have emancipation. You have liberation. So you cannot go. Right now you are human being, because you mind quality, you mind like this. You have quality, you mind. You have 5 precepts. 5 precepts. You have quality to become human. When you angry, your body change and your mind change. You become not human being anymore. If you study about dependent origination, you will understand. Becoming when you eye see the form and become eye consciousness. Three things work together, become contact. After contact, feeling will occur. After feeling occur, you have desire attached to it. If you attach to it, become angry, it means something form. We call becoming. You study about original or dependent origination, you understand becoming. At that moment, you will born. You will born become what? Depend on the quality you mind.
Right.
If you angry, become another, it means you born.
Right. So
you will born depend on your mind. The
right.
original mind, you're not angry. When you don't contact with six sense organ. When you contact with your eye, your ear, your nose, your tongue, your body, if you don't attach to it, don't desire to it, becoming cannot occur, because you stay calm, pure, and original. So Buddha never die, because Buddha don't have quality to become human, don't have quality to become celestial. Don't go anywhere, because he stay calm, mind free. Don't attach to it. If somebody talk to you, praise you, or you very, very beautiful, you are good, you are intelligent, but you don't attach to it, you just know it and keep your mind calm and pure. It means you don't go anywhere, because your mind calm. We cannot call you human. We cannot call you celestial. We cannot call you anakami. If you pure and you calm, we will call you harantaship.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to
or
address.
free. You cannot go anywhere. This is the
Right.
meaning.
Right.
In quality in your mind, depend on your mind.
Exactly. So that's what I'm trying to query about the fluctuation of mind in terms of the arahantship, and then shifting according to the quality of your mind. So you can be in one moment in anakami or sakitakami, and does it fluctuate and it moves according to the quality of your mind. So when people talk about attaining arahantship, it doesn't mean that's where you rest for the rest of your existence, whether body or mind or whatever. You know, that's what I'm trying to query of the this fluctuation movement according to where you are. So it's not really a once returner, a second returner, or a non-returner. It fluctuates into any type of returner constantly according to your practice and your consciousness. And I hope I'm making sense, Casey.
Yeah, no, you're actually making perfect. So while we were talking, I went and looked up to refresh it, because my memory is not very good. The 4 stages of enlightenment that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about the Sotapanna, the stream enter, this the first stage, and then the once returner, the Sakadagami, and then the Anagami, I think, is the next one, and then the Arahant.
Yes.
And so what you're asking about is, do these levels fluctuate? What they said in the explanation, which makes sense, is that with the stream enterer, you finally have the realization that you're not a permanent self. You're not an I.
Right.
So here's how this happened for me is I had that first realization very deeply during a meditation retreat. Like, oh, I'm not Casey. I'm everyone. I'm anyone. I'm just an ongoing moment by moment process. It was a very deep perception of I'm not a permanent thing. I'm just an ongoing moment by moment process. That's it. There's nobody here. There's nobody behind the curtain. Sort of this strong realization of, oh my gosh, how could I not know this, But then it goes away, right? So then I go back to my daily life and all of a sudden I've got that permanent self back again. And she wants, certain things and she doesn't like other things. And then I forget all about it. And then the realization starts coming quicker and quicker, right? To the point where it starts to happen even in daily life, not just at meditation retreats. Even in daily life, I'll suddenly laugh and realize, oh, I got caught again. There I go. I'm attaching, I'm grasping, I'm clinging, release it. So those different stages, it talks about here how the as you move up through the stages, you're less and less held on by the fetters. So it happens less and less. So you're not having as much as strong of emotions like greed and hatred, more like irritation or preference. You know how it gets less and less and less because you're getting rid of all those attachments.
Shedding.
Yeah.
Shedding, becoming.
It takes practice to cultivate these new habits, this new kind of person.
Yeah, I guess the first step is to lessen the frustration of yourself, frequent becoming, going and coming. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, well, just to realize that you're not a permanent self is a huge life-changing insight. It's, at least for me, it was absolutely realizing, oh, I'm not a permanent thing. It's a complete life changer. And then how to practice that in a world where everything around you is asserting that you are a permanent thing, or at least for now, and that other things are permanent things, and that we're unhappy when we find out they're not permanent. Then everyone's like, oh, that's horrible. Yeah, that went away. This happened. This changed. That's terrible. It's a different way of looking at the world.
And without driving those around you crazy, because sometimes people's expectation is that, hey, you're a practitioner, you're a meditator, you are not expect to slide down into the hell world one day and become an angel another day, right?
It is like chutes and ladders a little bit, isn't it?
Right. Okay, thank you so much. I didn't mean to take up other people's time.
No, that's great. But thank you.
Thanks.
Good question. Any more questions or any more thoughts? Ajahn Riti?
Okay, very good question. Very good question. Anyone have another question?
I have a question.
Brian?
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
We can't hear you, Brian. Brian, can you speak louder?
Sorry, my connection is a little iffy. But so other than sitting in meditation, what other kind of things do you recommend for kind of developing awareness, mindfulness, that kind of thing?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, or anyone else who wants to comment.
Yeah, okay, I'll do it first. So for me, I just do lots of games all day in my daily life. I mean, obviously doing a daily practice of meditation and having some retreats is really important, as you know, you do all the time. But then in daily life, it's sort of like, how do we manage it? So one of the games I play is just with my breathing, just going back to focusing on the breathing. If I get a few minutes where I'm in between things or something like that, going back to tranquilizing the body and practicing tranquilizing the mind. So practicing some of these steps. Another thing I do is just trying to maintain mindfulness so that when I get caught into something, then releasing it more and more quickly, taking a minute to calm down and shift my thinking in that moment, because I'll get caught up in something and get very upset about it. And then I have to realize, let's go to wisdom at that point. You can't change what's happening. You have to accept it, right? You have to realize this is the new, suddenly things change and there's a wanting to grasp onto how you thought it should be or how you thought it would be, or that it's not like it was. So then there's that need to go through that transition more and more quickly to accept the new circumstances and proceed forward. So just the more you can notice about how your thinking is going, what's where you're getting stuck, where you're getting attached, what you're attaching to, noticing all day long, like how that's impacting your life, how you're getting pulled one way or pulled another way. I mean, those are just sort of the games I play with myself all day long. And to be able to do something like that, if you go to a meditation retreat and you do the 16 steps and you very carefully attend to the wheel of dependent origination, and you see those links coming out of emptiness, you can see them originating, you can see that happening, then you can much more easily practice that in your daily life to see where you're getting caught.
Anyone else want to comment on that? Thank you. So, I wanted to say one. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. In my case, because I'm a true pre-kindergartner, since I wasn't really raised with Buddhism, I found that the very basic kindergarten training in terms of the preschool meditation retreats, they even start you out by brushing your teeth and just noting, your mind with, like at least you brush like 7 times, or with each. I think the monks are very aware of this because they probably train people like this, total ignorant beings, of how many bites per bite, how many times you chew before you swallow, or even how many steps it takes for you to walk to get to the dining hall. And I did find myself that, training as like a baby, learning how to walk, throughout each day or each moment, just basically allow me the possible entry to get somewhere. So I don't know how to say it any better as a beginner.
Yeah, well, it's actually, that's kind of how everything is. So everything starts with sense contact, and we'll talk about that some next week. So, we live in a world and we interact with that world through our senses, and nothing else really starts except from the senses. So if you can become very aware of sixth sense contact, then you don't have these things, you're aware of it and how it then proliferates back, up into your, later stages. And I think there was a class, I'm sorry, I missed it, on dependent origination. And so I think sense contact is very, very important. So like you said, like I'll do things where I'll intentionally, for example, even while I'm shaving, let's say, I just become aware of the smells and the feelings. And I say, oh, that smells really, I'll have that feeling, oh, that smells really good. I think I'm going to use this shaving cream tomorrow because I really like it. But then I realize, oh, I'm becoming attached to that. So every little thing, has a potential. Every piece of sense contact has the potential to kind of blow up into something that really, it's not anything more than a sensation.
Yes, and so, more important than the sense contact. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt. More important than the sense contact is the no sense contact. And that's where I think it's the most interesting thing.
Can you explain that more? No sense contact? I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah. So the mundane sense contact, then when you arrive at the non-mundane emptiness, I don't know what you call it, and that's the one that we should value, our training. Am I making sense? It is the this, besides the sensory input and all of this stuff and the everything, it's also the suddenly you arrive at the
You're talking about emptiness?
Emptiness, yeah. Even cognizing the emptiness is a very major part, I feel, of us regressing or progressing, or I don't know what you call it, just being, and that to me is so valuable in my learning experience. Thank you. I'll stop interrupting you.
No, that's fine. It was an interruption. I'm glad to have the conversation. So awareness of our thoughts is another sense contact. And in the West, we don't really think about the five senses, right? Hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, those things. And so awareness of the thoughts is actually, you can think of as another sensation. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about.
Awareness of knowing? Is that what you mean?
Awareness of thoughts. We'll talk about that more, actually, a lot next week. Next week we're going to talk about.
ท่านอาจารย์, maybe the monks, ท่านอาจารย์ถนัด maybe able to, enlighten us, students.
Dr. Tanat.
At the moment,
what is your point, Dr. Namket? What was your question or any comments? Hello.
My comment is also the awareness itself of not the sensory input, but also the lack of it, the emptiness.
We need to cultivate it.
Right, the awareness.
We talk about mindfulness and awareness, especially today. Anapanasati Sutta, as the K C explained very clear, if you follow the steps, as the Longpa Buddha Tat explained, but with the translation into English or any other master to teach about that. So if we follow that steps, then you can cultivate mindfulness and awareness in the high level of vipassana. So if you reach that point, then you can understand anicca, dukkha, anatta, or three characteristics of existence. Like Elise or anyone just raised the problem that when you meditate, how to overcome selfishness, or you're talking about selfishness. So to meditation is to cultivate the mind, to develop the mind, develop from the normal mind to the noble mind. So if you have the noble mind, how can you get the selfishness in your mind? So the purpose of develop the mind by meditation, or the meditation is the tool to develop the mind, to overcome greed, hatred, and delusion. This is the root of the evil or the kilesa in the mind. and to understand the three characteristics of existence: anicca, impermanence, dukkha, suffering, and anatta, no selves. So when you reach this goal, means that that's the final of Buddhism. Detached means, yeah.
Thank you, Sadhu. Thank you. I hate to take too much of everyone's time. Forgive me, but since it's rare for me to have opportunity to ask bizarre or strange question, in 1971, I was very grateful. I know nothing about Buddhism, but a group of my my mother's friend, with me, we chartered a train down to Tanputtatat Forest Monastery. And I, of course, fell in love with it immediately, not knowing anything at all about Buddhism. So I had a lot of questions, but I did not have the opportunity of being allowed to ask questions. But he kept talking about, and maybe this is boring for the other people, he pointed to a coconut tree, which he called in Thai, Maprao Agaliko, something of that sort. And of course, I know nothing about Buddhism, nothing about anything. Can you please enlighten me? What I feel he is like an incredible Zen master. What does he refer to that coconut tree that is standing by itself? What can you please enlighten me? Is that like concentration? Is that like I was the youngest, like I was 21 years old. The rest of the people that accompanied me, they were all in their 50s and 60s. Maybe they understand what he meant. Can you please help me understand?
Ajahn Rit, as you're familiar with that the teaching of Luang Por. What about Maprao Nalike? Please explain.
Okay. This poem, this by the Puttadasa. Maprao Nalike. That's only one the tree. Yeah, and no attach, nothing around, and only in the pond. In the pond, during the pond,
right.
And then that's the one. That's the meaning. That mean the nibbana. Just only one way to go to the nibbana. This is the nibbana, and the meaning. The meaning in it, nibbana.
Okay.
Yeah. No, when you attain the nibbana, that means you have nothing about the kilesa. Nothing about kilesa around. And then another thing, when we discuss, at the moment of contact, when you contact, we contact with the wisdom, or we contact with the ignorant.
Right.
Okay. If you contact with the ignorant, that lead you to be suffering. Mm-hmm. If you contact with the wisdom, will lead you no suffering. That's it. That is the answer. That's it.
Thank you so much. I'm 72 years old. It took me 61 years old to find
That's very nice. That's right, Yom. Yeah, Yom. The Nam Pet is very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
Very cool. Okay. Do you have another question? It's very good talk today. 2 hours today. Completely 2 hours. Very nice. Really nice. You have another question? And anyone want to go back again? You just go to your Facebook or the YouTube. We're going to YouTube again. I think it's very nice. Better to go back maybe a couple of times. Very nice. Casey doing very nice today. Yeah, and Dr. Tanat, you have any? You can before we going to the end, please. Thank you.
Nothing but okay. I just appreciate the speakers and all participants today.
and I hope that you can get the benefit because of I can say that the way to cultivate the mind, cultivate the mindfulness and awareness is the key to overcome or to release from samsara, from the circle of death and rebirth. So as Lord Paul Buddha said that Dr. Nampet mentioned the Maprao Nalike or the coconut tree, that's the good meaning that Ajahn Rit explained, that the Nibbana in the middle of the pond. That's the kind of samsara that we have to stride and across the samsara and then reach the final goal. Okay, thank you very much for all of you to join this program today.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
I can see even the bee wants to listen to the Dhamma. I don't know whether you can see the bee actually fly in here and wants to listen to the Dhamma.
Okay, pay respect to the Triple Cam one more time before we on today. Arang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivadin Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sangho Sanghang Namami.
Sadhuka, sadhuka.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sadhuka.
Sadhu. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
May everyone be well and everyone be peace.
ทุกวันเสาร์ทุกวันอาทิตย์ตอนเช้าข้าวได้นั่นแหละ